This map. In the top right of the map here on Overgrowth, it is, from All In, Shadver as our purple Protoss. And in the bottom right, we have his opponent, our red Protoss, Mercury. Mercury up 1 game currently. Okay, so this is a very, very interesting map. As I've stated before in the past, lots and lots of places to hide buildings if you'd like to go for the Proxy Oracle, Proxy DT, or Proxy Robo variants. On the other hand, we have a relatively closed choke that you can utilize to grab a natural. See, some players actually do this even in PvP, although it is kind of a dice roll. If your opponent is going for anything particularly cheesy, or if he's going for a really aggressive one-base play like 4-gate, it can be a very dangerous proposition to attempt. And the scout paths are not particularly long on this map, so it's pretty easy to pick up on somebody doing that. More kind of economically greedy plays. That said, that can still be done. Where the map's interesting features tend to come into play is this chunk of terrain here, which separates the second from the third, making the third a little bit harder to defend. This more kind of forward positioned third, which, while maybe a little bit closer and a little bit easier to defend in some respects, via especially from airplay, it does have the disadvantage of just being kind of out closer to your opponent. There are also, of course, the golds on the map, often featuring heavily into Zerg games. A little bit less for Protoss, as extra minerals early on for a Protoss player really just leads them to the ability to get a Nexus or a lot of Zealots. I mean, you can't really do much else with it because everything else takes gas. So, a lot of Protoss players, you won't really ever see them go for that in a PvP. I mean, they can, but it's just like, it doesn't accomplish anywhere near as much. Gateway is up. Full gas is picked up. No cybernetic score down, but both pylons in the base, so we're not going to see any particular proxy shenanigans from our red Protoss player. His cybernetic score is a little bit later than Shadver's, though, which will give him a minor edge in whatever attack he tends to pick up, especially if they end up going for the same thing. Mercury's probe is now getting up into the main base. He's going to scout around up here. He's going to pick up on the gases, he's going to see the structure, and he's going to see basically that it's the same as what he faced last time. So as of right now, anyway, both players are not really in a position to conclude anything about what their opponent is doing just yet. Kind of expect both of these scouts to be driven out before the tech is thrown down. It would be very surprising if he was able to hold on that long. However, neither player letting up on the scouting, wanted keeping their eyes on the opponent as long as they can. Okay, there's a Mothership Core coming out for both players, being chrono boosted out by Shadver. His is going to pop out for, well, it was being chrono boosted out, I think. His is going to pop out first, and that's going to scare the scout away. Likewise, Mothership Core coming out from Mercury scares away the probe from Shadver. And so we finally see our tech once again for Mercury, favoring the Twilight Council. And this time, Shadver opening up with the Robo Bay. I think this is actually a very solid choice, especially if he anticipates a blink once again from his opponent, or if he goes for DTEs, he'll be able to grab scouting very easily with the scouting detection very easily with the Observer. Not to mention he can grab an early Immortal to help fend off any particular blink play. Scout has been shut down from Mercury, so we have no idea what's going on in his opponent's base. And as you can see, if you look at his view, we have additional gateway popping out. He doesn't really know anything about what's going on in his deck up here. And likewise, from Shadver, he has just made the correct decision in dealing with this. A Dark Shrine. So, okay. This is a huge gamble from Mercury in that he doesn't really know if his opponent is going Robo or not, and this really kills DTs pretty hard. The only way you can actually beat the Protoss player at this point is if they do something silly with their Observer and accidentally send it across the map, then the DTs aren't at home and you take tons of damage. That's really, really bad. Or they go too hard into grabbing Immortals and simply don't have the DTs and don't react fast enough. Ooh, supply block here for Shadver. It's a little bit unfortunate timing for that. Slight supply block? No, not true supply block. So he could produce more units right now. He's going to have to wait until his pylon gets done before he does that. And he's going to go for an expansion. An extremely, extremely... Oh, well... That's one way to warp in DTs. He doesn't really need to do this, though. Like, he's got this back pylon that's going to allow him vision to here. He's got 2 DTs popping in. Oh, there's no... Oh, he's chrono boosting out the Observer. He knows now. Did he manage to get down into the main base? No, he didn't. But he must suspect just from the timings that are available that this is potentially coming. The Observer is now out. Photon Overcharge goes down. Yep, there it is. And he's going to run the probes away, try to save as many of them as he can. Running them back over the DTs. The DTs actually get a couple more kills than they probably should have. Loses 4 for the cost of 1 DT. He hasn't found the other just yet, but he will. He will. You're not getting away, Mr. Invisible Ninja Man. He's checking the bottom right. Oh, he's sending his probes. He's got to make sure not to send them back too soon. There's another... Oh, more DTs attacking down the bottom left and down at the natural, able to take out 4 more probes. Oh, we should not send him back to work up there. Again, this is the sort of thing that can make DTs work incredibly well. Even with detection, is if you can get the army out of position, if you can spread things out real well, the DTs can just keep coming. And so Mercury's able to give himself a little bit of an edge. Nothing to harass his economy back home. Puts him ahead by 6 workers, a decent amount. Maybe not perfectly significant, but a decent amount. Another one warped in right here. He has picked up. Oh, he's picked up on it. Sees the warp prism, scares it out of town. Other DT is actually going to run up to the top now and start harassing this base. Shadver should see this coming. Oh, but he is not reacting in time. This chip damage that he's taking from these DTs is just piling up and up and up. And it's a bit rough for Mercury in the one sense in that his gas expenditures are very, very high in order to do this. He's not quite the... Getting more... Never mind. He's killed a total of 12 workers. How many have lost this entire game? 18 workers dead. Hey, Zero. Good to see you. This is rough, I gotta say. I think our Purple Protoss player is gonna need to make some pretty serious magic happen to really make this work. And another DT's coming in up here at this point. Shadver can probably anticipate this. He's just really focused on getting this warp prism. He loses yet another worker, though. 21 workers now down. Really just catching anything that pops out of this base. And yet another warp in on the top right. Still haven't split off necessary units. I think just a single cannon, oddly enough, by now, just with the amount that he's actually lost, probably would have paid huge dividends for this defense. Just as he's had such a hard time really protecting both locations. Back home, though, what do we see backing this up from Mercury? He's also going Robo, grabbing a couple of Mortals, a few more Gateways. Pretty much just going to build up to a big Gateway Immortal army and take down his opponent who won't possibly be able to keep up. What Shadver can do from here is he can try a similar tech play. Often people who go DTs are a little light on the detection themselves, and you'll notice that here. Even though he does have a Robo, there are no cannons here, and in fact, I believe there is one Observer hanging out with the main army. Oh, there's a cannon, okay. But he does have vulnerability in parts of the base, so he's experienced enough to know that he shouldn't do that. Never mind, I take it back. But that's something that people will attempt sometimes, just because people often don't, spread their detection out so great. They will also, you can try to go to surprise air transition. Although you need a lot of time to pull that off. I've done that. It does work sometimes, but it's tough. It's tough. Like, the position he's in right now is very difficult to come back from. The other thing he can do is try and go for a quick push and hope that his opponent has expended a lot of resources in order to lock down so many DTs. He's throwing down a cannon up in the main base. This should be enough to hold that area. There's nothing to defend the natural, so a single DT wandering into the base at this time will be more than enough. Now, he has been scouted moving across the map by this DT, so yeah, I can see the warp prisms moving back in already. Armies here at the front. 2 Immortals, 3 Zealots, 2 Sentries, and 3 Stalkers. So it's a decent variety, but with this many Stalkers and Immortals here, not to mention 2 Photon Overcharges, I think Mercury should have no problem holding this. DT already in the main base. There is detection back there, but there are no army units to deal with it, so it's already going to work on the army. Already going to work on the economy. Here comes the attack. He's going to push forward and attack the cannon. Photon Overcharge goes down first. He's forced to engage under it. Guardian Shield now popping up. He's going to lose the Mothership Core. A couple units at the front. Force Field's doing some work there, but there just isn't anything to deal with the remaining Immortals, actually. He's trying to focus down the Nexus. This is a very interesting move, almost suicidal. from Shadver, but if it works, will he be able to? Yes, he does. Now the press, he actually is able to take out the natural, kind of, almost in a way. Well, I was going to say it almost evens the economic damage, but the Zealots in the main base kind of kill that. So Mercury takes it 2-0.